going to be hearing a wonderful testimony from an amazing lady. And we are going to be sharing about Power Women Chronicles, stories of powerful women, women who have achieved a lot in life, women who have gone through a lot of experiences in life. And as they put it, experience is the best teacher. Most women have stories that have never been heard. Most women have experiences that nobody has ever had. We find in the Bible many amazing stories of women like Hannah, like Ruth, like Naomi, like Esther. And in our modern day, we have chronicles of modern women, stories of powerful women, what they've achieved, what they've gone through. When you go through an experience, it gives you a platform to share with other women, to encourage other women. Therefore, this evening we are blessed to have a wonderful, powerful woman, Dr. Arinola. She's going to share with us about her life experience. And I want to encourage many women who are here or who may be watching. If you've gone through a similar experience of abuse, where probably you've been in an abusive relationship or you're still in an abusive relationship, I want to tell you there is hope. Don't give up. As you listen to this testimony tonight, I want you to be encouraged that there are other women who have gone through what you are going through, and they've come out by God's strength. And by Dr. Arinola sharing with us her testimony, I want you to connect with her. I want you to connect with her testimony. I want you to be in that place where you can know there is hope in a hopeless situation. Therefore, welcome this evening. And I'm going to welcome Dr. Arinola to share with us her powerful testimony. This is her story. Welcome, Dr. Arinola.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. I thought you were going to be asking me lots of questions instead, because where do I start?
We will ask you a few questions.
Yeah, please.
And the first question I'm going to ask you is, how did you end up in this abusive relationship? Did you know that it was an abusive relationship, or you just found yourself in it?
All right. I think, to be honest, there must have been something wrong with my idea or perception of what love is. I don't like to talk too much about my childhood, but just to say that throwing words about and some other incidents that happened, I think had rocked my self-esteem a little bit. And at this time, I wasn't in a very good place in my career either. So it was easy for me to be persuaded to be in a relationship. So your other question about, did I know it was abusive? Honest to God, there were signs. And I think that I felt uncomfortable about some expressions or display of anger that I brushed off. I just thought, oh, that should be all right. I'm sure I can cope with this. I can resolve this. So it was that thinking of I can resolve this, and the thinking that when people use words that are not very nice towards you, it's okay. You know, maybe they didn't mean it, or that's just, they were in the heat of the moment. So those were little things that should have drawn my attention to the fact that something was not quite right.
Yeah.
And like I said, I brushed some things aside. I saw a display of anger that scared me.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought, oh well, you know. I've grown up around in my environment at home, where when I was younger, where I've seen displays of anger. So it was something that was not too difficult to think it normal. Let me just put it that way. So I've had relatives that displayed different behaviors, and I thought, oh, okay, I can cope with this. I mean, I've lived with this, I've seen it before, and I've been spoken to like this in big congregations, and yeah.
Mm. And when you found yourself in that situation,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, what was your reaction? Did you confront it, or did you keep quiet and kept going along with it, or what?
Honestly, I didn't want to accept that there was a situation. I think that well-meaning people who noticed the change in my appearance,
Yes.
the change in my personality, the change in the way I spoke or the way I reasoned, were sending alarm signals to me. Something is not quite right. And I went,
Yeah.
oh, you guys, you're so jealous because you don't have a marriage, or you think you know too much, you know. And I would dismiss some of the things they said until I had a wake up call. I think maybe you'll ask me about that later. So
Yeah.
for a long time, and the people that I trusted in, like in the church, like the pastor, they didn't think too much of it, because one of the incidents that happened was over a pram that I had bought. And the pram ended up getting smashed because the other party was upset that I didn't inform them I was going to buy a pram with some money grant that I got. And I was shaking that day. And they had my shirts around my neck and were squeezing it and said, if I, they were going to, finish me off or whatever it is they were saying. I don't want to talk too much about it.
Yeah.
And when we told the pastor, okay, the other party left the house, but I think he was feeling bad about it. And then the pastor called me and said, oh, please, can you let him back in? Can you let him back in? He's come to complain. He's come to say something that he's sorry or something like that. I never got the sorry. The pastor got the sorry, and I was encouraged to let him back in. And nothing else happened after that. Nobody said, come for counseling. Nobody said, what's going on? Let us look into this. No. So,
So you are not offered any help or any counseling?
no, I wasn't offered counseling, but I didn't think to ask either.
Yeah.
Though later on, I did ask for counseling. So, but we're
Mhm.
not there yet. So,
Yeah. So, and I think the lesson we are learning from this,
yeah.
that if you're ever anybody listening to this and you're in a situation where
Mm,
it's abusive,
mhm,
don't keep quiet. Talk
mm,
to somebody, ask for help, ask for counseling, talk to your pastor, because from what you're saying, Dr. Arinola, is that you kept quiet and you kept it to yourself, and
yes.
it kept going on and on.
But Jane, the other thing is,
Yeah.
for a long time, I don't think I accepted that it was abuse. That's another issue.
Yeah.
So when your self-esteem is so low and somebody tells you you're stupid, and they begin to give you other words because you don't protest, you begin to take it on, and then you reflect on those words and you begin to think maybe they're right. Because after all I'm doing is sitting at home and looking after kids. I mean, one of the things that actually gave me an outlet was I became an Avon lady, and I went to do a master's course, which cost a lot of trouble before I even got to do the course. But for a long time, I was quite happy to accept that it was my fault. I did something wrong. And that's one of the cycles that people who are in abusive relationships sometimes go through. They keep
Mm.
thinking, oh, maybe I should behave well. Maybe I shouldn't have said something. Maybe I shouldn't share my news. Maybe I should be quiet. Maybe I should be more humble. Maybe.
Yeah.
So for a while, I didn't accept. And when people pointed it out, I was like, shut up. I don't want to hear it. Don't want to, nothing's wrong. It's me. It's my fault. So that's a huge factor.
So you kept blaming yourself.
Yes, I would blame myself. And there were times I believe God spoke to me, because there was one night I had a dream. I get dreams a lot. That time I didn't think much about dreams, but
Yeah.
there were words that were coming to me about how things were not quite right. And what really broke me was my mother crying on the phone.
Mm.
She called me one day. Now, the situation I was in was such that I didn't have a phone. I wasn't allowed to have the house number. And even when I found it on the application form, I wasn't supposed to give it away. So nobody could contact me. So my friends were stopped from coming. So there were so many things that were happening that I was on my own in this relationship with the children.
Mm.
So one day I got a mobile phone because I saw an advert, even though I was shaking when I did it. I was promised a phone for so many months and nothing happened. And I kept thinking, I can't get a phone unless somebody gets it. But one day I picked up the paper and I saw this ad and I applied. And then the guy was laughing. And then he said, "You have a credit card?" I said, "No, I've got a Connect." They used to call it Connect cards in those days for Barclays. And then he said, "Oh, because of that, that's fine." And then the next day, phone arrived. And I was shaking the first time the phone rang. So when I had a phone, then I could give that phone number to my relative. So that's how my mother was able to reach me. And then
Okay.
she was crying and said, "I don't understand. I don't know where you live. I can't talk to you. I don't have a number." I said, "Well, you have a number now." Even though I was quite scared. It was when she started crying that it got to me. She said, "I didn't bring you up like this. I don't know what is going on with you." And then another friend called me and said, "I want Arinola back. I want my friend back. You used to be fun. You used to laugh a lot. You loved life. You were exciting. You were adventurous. Now you're nothing like that. Your voice is gone. When you walk with your face down. You don't look after yourself. You're wearing male clothes. I used to wear male clothes, male shoes. I didn't look after myself. It was one day I went to see my mom. She said, "Don't ever come back to this house to visit me if you don't wear earrings." It's comments like that that make you
Yeah.
think there's something wrong with you. Your
Yeah.
personality is gone.
Mhm.
And then another thing that woke me up was another friend came to visit, and my son had an injury. He was bleeding. And then I was panicking. And she said, "Do you want to go to the hospital?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure." She said, "Ari, you're a doctor now." But the process in my head was, "I don't know what I'll be told. I might get into trouble." you
Yeah.
know, it's almost like I'd lost my confidence. I'd lost knowledge of what I learned for years. I couldn't make a decision. I couldn't make a diagnosis. Anyway, the child got treatment. We went to the hospital. But she was shocked. Then she looked at me and said, "What on earth has happened to you? Why can't you make a simple decision?"
Mm.
So those are the comments
Yeah.
that I reflected on. But of course, there was one more wake up call.
Yeah. From what you're saying,
Yeah.
and it's a lesson that a lot of women who may be watching this and may be going through the situation
Mm.
needs to learn from your experience, is that most people who are abusive make you stay alone, cut you off from the others.
Mm.
Isolation.
Mm.
Isolation is one thing that most abusers use to make sure that you don't communicate with your friends, you are not in touch with anybody. So be aware of that, that if you are in a relationship where you are being cut off, told not to communicate, not to have your friends, be very careful, because listening to you, what you're saying is that you are almost all alone without even a phone. That must have been very hard.
It was very hard. I was so happy that I could get one,
Yeah.
which I didn't think I qualified for. That must have been God's intervention.
Mhm.
The other thing I had to do was I was getting so fat, and I thought, I can't live like this. And I decided to sign up for Avon. Avon gave me an opportunity to go out and talk to people.
Yeah.
You knock on doors, the confidence will come back gradually because you have something else to talk about apart from what's going on in the house. And then I was able to make some money from the profits to start doing my hair because I wasn't looking after myself. And then was going to the salon to do my hair, and I would hear other people's stories. Women talk.
Yeah.
And then one day I interjected with my story, and the woman said, "What? You're going through this?" And I was thinking, why is she shocked? I
Because you
thought it
thought it was
was
normal.
normal.
Yeah.
She said, "What?"
Wow. So what did you feel when she was reacting like that?
Thinking, what's the matter? It's no big deal.
Because you are
Hello,
used
woman.
to that.
Yeah, I was kind of used to that. Every time you're stupid, you're no good. Okay, unfortunately, my father used to do a little bit of that. He used to tell me, um, he used to use words that were not very nice, not very encouraging or palatable. I don't know what that was. So I think I was kind of used to it, but I probably grew a thick skin. But then to be in a marriage where somebody's supposed to love and protect you, and you're constantly being told you're stupid. And if you ever came up with an idea, it would be like, oh, who told you? Did your friend tell you that? And then my friends, when they finally got my number, were calling me to tell me that the other party kept calling them to say, don't call our house. So when you're talking about isolation, it was a
Yeah.
systematic thing. Yes. So when people would make comments, like one of my friends in med school, we kind of accidentally met in the street. And I was talking, she said, you've changed. What's happened to you? And I said, what do you mean? I didn't think I had changed. She said, what's happened to that fire? That's Arinola that we know. And then I said, oh, okay, I'll make comments like, oh, I'm not allowed to do this. Oh, I'm not allowed to. She said, what do you mean by you are not allowed? Who is stopping you from going? Oh, I can't go out. Oh, I'll be shaking. Oh, I can't do this. I'm not allowed to call. I'm not allowed to do this. I'm not allowed to go to any event. I'm not. And then she said, what is going on? So I started, the more I kept on going on about, I'm not allowed, I can't do this, I can't. She said, you sound like an abused woman. I said, no, 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 I'm not abused though. No, no, he's very nice to me. She said, yeah, 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 yeah. That's how they sound. They
Mm.
say the person is good when he's good. And when they are being abusive, they're being
Yeah.
abusive. And then she said, oh my goodness, you sound exactly like a textbook picture. Of course, that upset me. I was so angry.
Can imagine.
And
Yeah.
she was telling me her own story. So I started going to her house after picking up the kids at school. I wouldn't come straight home. Of course, I got into trouble for that.
Yeah.
So these were the ways that God was trying to get into my subconscious that this is not right. This is not what I made you for. This is not what I'm intending you to be in.
Mm.
And then the other thing was, I think we're a Christian platform, so I can share this. One day, the other party came home and said, I have a friend who dreams a lot. And the friend told me, you're going to leave me. You're going to leave with the three kids. And then he said, is that so? And I said, oh yeah. I was like, what? Of course, when they say what, you get scared again, like, oh sugar, I shouldn't have said that. So these were warning not just to me, but to the other party as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I will want to ask you,
Yeah.
what was your wake up call?
Hey, wake up call. I've mentioned the three about my mom and my friend. Um, I've mentioned about
Yeah.
the hairdresser. The main one was when I started a master's course,
Yeah.
I had to fight for because I was told I didn't need it. And we had to have some family intervention. I finally started going to lectures. Of course, I was always getting messages, come back home now, the baby needs changing, the baby is pulled, things like that.
Yeah.
But I began to enjoy interacting with people
Mm-hmm.
who felt I had something to say. I would come back thinking, you mean I have something to say? Because for so many years, I've been told you are stupid. How you should stop, shut up. We don't want to, who wants to hear you? Who wants to hear what you have to say? Just be quiet. That's what I was hearing all the time. And it was constant. My lecturers were saying, you're such an intelligent woman. I'm so glad you're in this meeting. And I would talk, I will contribute, and I'll come home and I'll feel stronger for it. So I would come home a different reaction. Then some of my friends were doing revision. They would come round. And one of them said, I'm never ever coming to your house again. I'm saying, what now? She said, did you not see what was going on? I said, what did you see? She said, constantly we're being watched as if somebody is checking on what we are saying or checking what you are going to say. Now, me, I didn't see this. I saw it as love. My ex is always around me. you know. So these were things that were little ideas that made me think maybe this is not quite right. But what happened during the masters was I was going for an exam, and after so many different incidents, I had made up my mind that I'm going to give this a go, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to take a break from it. So I mentioned that to the other party. I said, listen, I see that you don't respect me. You don't listen to what I have to say. When I talk, you just ignore me. And I think maybe we need to give this relationship a break. Of course, I was ignored again. And then there was an incident where my son had a book knocked on his head. and something rose up in me and I thought, I can't take this. Beating me is one thing, but extending it to the child, if I don't speak up for that child, who is going to speak up? So I looked at the person and said, that is it. You're not unstoppable. And then I called the police. So the other wake up call I got when the police got involved was, why are you still here? I was wondering, why is the policeman asking me that question? What does it mean by why am I still here? He was witnessing the abusive words that were coming out, how I was being spoken to. And then the policeman sat down, took a chair, looked at me face to face and said, you haven't answered my question. Why are you still here? Why are you still taking this kind of treatment? And I heard myself say, oh, I thought they were going to change. And then the man leaned forward like this, looked me again in the eye and said, they never do. It was like a spell broke inside me.
So this is the policeman telling you that?
Yes. Because here I'm trying to explain, oh, I'm still here because things might change. And he's telling me, change how? How? You have been in this thing for how long? You are the one that called us. You called us, isn't it? He got to a point where he said, I'm going to arrest you because do you want to leave or stay? I was dilly-dallying, dilly-dallying. You know, I called them about 3 times that day, the day I left, that same day where he said they never do. He came back and said, this is the second time you have called me. What do you want now? Do you want to go? Do you want to stay? You know, because I'm going to arrest you. I'm thinking, arrest me? I'm the one who's been beaten. My son, I'm the one who's been harassed. So we got to a point where both mommies were present. I called my mom, he called his mom. There was a lot of drama going on, shouting and screaming. In the middle of all that, I knew I'd had enough. I just needed a break. So that's how I walked out.
From what you're saying, for a policeman to come to that point of telling you
Yeah.
why you're not here, why you're still here,
Yeah.
it sounds very serious, because a
Yeah.
lot of these policemen have witnessed a lot of women dying, a lot of women
Yes.
being killed in abuse. And one of the things I like is you talk to a lot of women who are in abusive situation and who don't know what to do. What I'll ask you is, what can you tell any woman who is out there going through an abusive situation, an abusive marriage? They feel stuck, they can't talk to anybody, they don't know what to do.
Mm.
What is the advice you can give from your experience, from your
Wow.
story?
Every situation is unique.
Yes.
I think I would say to them, you need to know that your life has a purpose. You were put on this earth for a purpose, which is greater than just being in a relationship and wanting someone to love you. And you need to find somebody to confide in. In the last year, I've been speaking to 2 or 3 women who have been coaching. You know, one of them has got a job and she's got some independence. The other one is still going through another process. And then they were complaining about the other party. And I said, listen, don't complain about what he is doing or what he does. I want you to focus on you now and your children. It's time to set some goals. What is it that you want to do with your life? Because when you start doing that, your behavior and the way you're relating to them will change. You know, it got to a point where I used to get shouted at, I'd be cringing and shaking like this. One day I got up and said, don't speak to me like that again. And they were shouting and shouting, and I walked out the door to another room. When I'm speaking to you, blah, blah, I said, don't you ever speak to me. You get so frightened and compressed and oppressed that you don't even think you can talk. So I would say to that person, start developing yourself. Start doing courses, get someone to confide in. If you need to go out for a few minutes or a few hours, please do. Find a creative excuse. I found Avon, even though I started being followed. after that. Find a creative reason. And I understand that during the lockdown, you're exempt from, staying indoors. You can get out if you need to get out. The important thing is you mustn't keep quiet about it. You must seek help. Talk to someone you can trust. There's refuge. There's so many phone numbers. Call 999. There's a problem. There's so many codes you can give. There's one like that, which means I need help if you call. If you have to do a phone kind of call, but don't be quiet about it. I know that there's so many different pastors and pastoresses who may not be able to handle it. So God will direct you to somebody you can confide in, or find somebody who's been through it before to talk to, because they will understand some of the challenges. So that's what I would say. Stop blaming yourself. That's another one. Stop blaming yourself, but talk less. I used to have to pray in the spirit. When the abuse starts, you just start praying in tongues because you don't know what else to do. Oh Lord. Those are the things that come to mind now. So
Wow.
talk to someone, develop yourself, take your focus off what they're doing or saying, and reject the rubbish that comes out. When the rubbish you're stupid, you just say with your own mouth, I reject that. I know who I am. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I have a purpose. God loves me. Just keep saying that to yourself. Soak yourself in the word, soak the children in the word, soak them in worship, and keep affirming who God says you are, and speak to positive people, you know? Yeah. If
Praise
I
God.
think of anything else, I will say, and pick up good
I
books.
I
Mhm.
like your story. Abuse is not the end.
No, it's not at all.
So tell us more about it's not the end. What happened after the abuse? I like this story.
Um, I felt like God impressed on me that I had to share my story as well. So, in other words, yes, it has happened. It's an event. It does not define you. It does not constrain you, or it does not dictate your future. So it's just like you go to a party and then it's ended and you went to another one. So I had that whole scenario. It ended, but there's also life, because as I said earlier on, there's a higher purpose. Our purpose is to be here, to be light to the world, to worship God, give Him, and just surrender and do what He wants us to do. That's more important than everything else, or somebody professing love and everything, or even being a mom. You know, we're here, we're a creative nation, we're a royal priesthood, and we're to preach the gospel and point people to Jesus. So abuse is just another stumbling block in the process. You step on it and say, okay, got it, got the t-shirt, next.
I like that. I
Next
like
challenge.
how positive you are.
It's God. When God teaches you, okay, let me tell you some of the things that helped that God did.
Yeah.
When I moved out that night, about 2 or 3 days later, I told my mom that I'm going back because I was getting so many calls. You must come back. You must come back. Even the mother. My mother started crying again. I said, what is she crying about? I'm married now. She said, but don't you realize that there's so much anger right now? Do you want them to finish you off? When there's anger and somebody's demanding you come back, can't you see that there's another factor at play? It's like, you have disgraced me. I kept getting the phone calls. You have disgraced me. You've embarrassed me. I'm going to show you, but you must come back. That kind of thing. And then they tell you the Bible says God doesn't want divorce. Do you know there was a day? I'm going to just do it a small tangent to this discussion. I was on the C2C and I remember shouting on the phone, don't you dare tell me what God says in the Bible. If God says I hate divorce, did you not read that He says you shouldn't treat your wife of your youth with violence? And the whole train must have heard my conversation. I was so angry because I was getting stronger. Don't you dare call me and tell me what God says. God talks to me too. So don't tell me what God told you to tell me. Okay, so I had a dream after my mother was crying about me wanting to go back, and it was a three-way conversation. I felt like God the Father, God the Holy Spirit, and Jesus were in my room in this dream.
Yeah.
And He kept saying to me, where did you get your definition of love? He sent His Son. The Son laid down His life. The Bible says Jesus came for us, and love died. Love died at the cross. So where did I get my own definition? And this was God asking me. And I was looking at the three individuals. I was like, I don't know. See, where did you where did you get the thinking that I, God of love, would want you to dwell in that, horrid, tempestuous situation? I woke up, I went to my mom. I said, Mom, I now know that it was wrong. My mother was singing for joy. Then the next thing he said to me one day, I was in the kitchen, I heard in my ear, I did not create you to be a slave to, you know, the man and his mother. Very clearly. And then I said, but God, I married a pastor now. And then I heard back in my ear, by their fruits ye shall know them. So God was constantly talking to me, you know, and
Wow.
encouraging me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I answer your
Amazing.
question?
Amazing. Yes, you've answered a question of when people find themselves in situations like that,
Yeah.
what do they do? And I like what you've just said, that God is love. You
Yeah.
know, God has not called women to be abused,
Mm-mm,
because if somebody loves you, they should not abuse you.
mm-mm,
So, as we come to almost at conclusion to this, I'd love to ask you to share with many women who will be listening how
mm-mm,
you've managed to achieve so much in your life. I admire what you've done. You've wrote books, you know, you have, studied to be a doctor. After all that abuse, what gave you a motivation to keep going and achieve so much in your life? Share that with us.
Okay. I want to say I give glory to God.
Yeah,
I love the way God relates with me. It's like a child talking to daddy, and we laugh a lot. And he's constantly encouraging me to do more. There was a day I was walking past the station in Barking, and he said, do you think that people sit in their house fearful that they're going to die? So because of that, they won't go to work or do anything. Ah, he said, you can't live your life always expecting bad. So he was always talking to me and encouraging me, and opportunities were coming. And you said I've done so much. Yes, I do a lot in the community. That's because he spoke into my ear and he kept bringing the word community, community. I said, I'm tired of hearing this community. What does it mean now? Until the
yeah,
job I was in ended. And I had to cry out. He said, well, I've been talking to you. You've been disobeying. Are you ready to listen now? Because this is your last chance.
yeah,
So when you have God constantly wooing you, he was always wooing me. He
yeah,
would play with me. It's like I'll get a picture like God is dancing. He's excited about what I'm doing. Like, go tell them, go, to,
yeah,
you get that sense that you have a company of love
yeah,
around you. So it just pushes you to do more. And then my kids are another inspiration. I
yeah,
don't want them to end up the way I did. I don't want us to be in a situation where we're begging for food. I don't want us to be out in the streets. I've had terrible situations where there was no money, but they were another inspiration about me setting a good example. And what God does is he gives me an idea. If I do it, then he says, oh yeah, don't sit down. We have to do another one. I said, but I've just finished. He said, no, there's more to do.
wow,
This book, you wanted me to write. I said, no, I am not doing, don't ask me. I don't want anyone to know my business. He said, but there are people out there that need to hear. I said, but God, I don't want my life out there now. Is it their business? so what so what happened was he started sending people to me.
yeah.
I would talk about business. I created a board game. Um,
Tell
I
us more
went
about
to
the board game.
Westminster. I went to University of Westminster to ask them to help me do an app. I came out of that meeting, and the woman looked at me and said, "Since you are so good at creating, can you help us create a game for domestic violence?"
Yeah,
I
wow.
looked up, I said, God, how did board game in finance get into domestic violence? He was
Wow.
always sending people to me. Then another day, another mayor was talking to me. She started crying about her life. I said, oh, okay, God, what do you want me to do? All right, I'm listening. So I started writing the story. And then I wrote it, and people were saying, like, whoa, it cannot be. You're so cheerful. You're this. I say, it is God, though. It is God.
Wow.
So a relationship with God where you get into, the Bible talks about that we will be founded. It's like we will have a revelation of how deep, how high, how wide, and how low God's love is for us.
Yeah.
I was always asking for that. And I think that foundation was very helpful in me moving forward and knowing that I can do anything because God is with me. You
Yeah.
know, He's always one step ahead, or how many steps ahead? He's there. So even if I'm going to meet people who I'm supposed to be shaky about, I just laugh and go, "Oh, my daddy's there. Daddy's already sorted it."
Man.
So relationship with God is very, very crucial.
Wow, what you remind me is what the Bible says, that whatever the devil means for bad,
Hmm.
God's turn is allowed to work for your good. So
Amen.
the devil meant this abuse to work for your bad, but from what you're sharing, God has turned it around to work for your good and
Amen.
to bless other people. You've
Amen.
written several books. How many books have you written?
Five. I'm on the sixth
You
one.
have written 5 books.
Well, these two are probably quite crucial to this conversation.
Yes.
Oh, oh, I've got this screen. Yeah, that one. This one is about sexual abuse.
You can't
Okay.
read a
Don't ask
book.
me if it's my story, but a little bit of that relates to my life. Some of it, yeah.
And
Oh,
if anybody wants to get the book, where can they get it?
oh, you can go to Amazon or you can contact me directly through Jane,
Okay.
or you can download an app. It's on an app called World Reader. It's one of the best sellers on there. You can go to lulu.com if you're in America,
Okay.
Barnes and Noble, Google. There's so many places where you can get this book. One day I got a search from somebody in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it's
Yeah. Briefly tell us about that book about abuse. What is it about?
which one?
The
What,
one
the
you've
sexual
just
abuse
told us.
one?
Yeah.
Okay, this one. Maybe I should take my screen off. One second, everybody. Let's just be nice. Oops, I meant to take the screen off completely. Okay, right. Okay, so this one. Okay, this is beautifully flawed. The one we're talking about. This one is about sexual abuse. It says a lady called Cece, a young girl from the age of 5 or 7. Love you, darling. She was being sexually uh, taken advantage of by her cousin. I started writing this book because I just had a moment of epiphany. I was talking to a friend who's always going on about safe sex. And I just heard in my head, you could write a story about this. So this little girl, unbeknownst to her mom and her siblings, everybody in the house, this man will come into her room at night and start playing with her underwear. And she carried on like this. She started, her behavior changed. She became reckless, and the mother couldn't understand. This man was constantly threatening her that she mustn't talk. Then it got to a point where she ran into a lady called Grace, who looks like Jesus in this story. And Grace took her under her wing because her mother threw her out after getting pregnant for her stepdad. If I
Oh.
tell the whole story now, people may not buy it.
Exactly.
She ran
Tell the whole story so people can buy the book.
okay. But my mother read this book. She said she couldn't sleep. She had to stay up all night to finish it and said to me, "You must do part two. You must do part two. You can't leave it like that." Okay, she met this Grace, and somehow her children wanted to meet Jesus. So she said, "Oh, all right, I will go and meet this your Jesus." So she got to church. She was so angry with God because of what had happened to her. I'm going to leave it there. You need to go and read the book. It's called Love at First Bite.
Yeah.
It's
So
on
you
Amazon as
can
well.
get that book. And I believe one of the lessons that people need to learn from that book is that be careful who you leave your children with.
Oh, yeah.
Most children who have been abused by people who are very close to the
To
family,
them.
people you
Yes.
don't even expect. So
Mm.
it's a wake-up call also to parents to
Mhm.
be very careful with whom you leave or trust your children with, because abuse can happen right there under your roof. So that's one thing that parents needs to be on guard for, because as you say in that story, this young girl was abused by somebody very, very close. So please buy this book and you'll know more about how to protect your children and how to protect even yourself. Somebody is asking, how do we get the board game?
The board game, go to Amazon. Go to Amazon, or you go to my website, bemoneywise.co.uk. And that one came in a dream. One of the ideas for that game also came in a dream.
What was that dream?
Oh Lord, the dream. Well, I was going through a time where I was in between contracts. I used to work in the NHS. And I was crying out to God. And then I heard one day, what is in your hand? I said, oh God, you have started the game. What is all these questions? You know, he talks to me with questions. He will say things like, don't you think this? That's how God talks to me a lot. Oh, thank you, sis. It's Be Money Wise with a Z.
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
so much.
Thank you, ma. So I had a dream where I had a board game, or I had a game that had a particular shape and everything, but I didn't think much of it. And I got to a point when God was saying, what is in your house? I started talking to my children about money. And then the children said, oh, mommy, we should create a game. I said, no, create a game, Ke. No, I don't know where I'm going to go to create a game. Who am I going to talk to? But somehow when I took that step, Barclays Bank came to the place where I was volunteering, and they wanted to help local businesses or local projects.
Wow.
And I was selected. And that's why you see that the box has a blue base. They were trying to change the logo and everything. I insisted that the logo should remain purple. They gave me a blue color. I went, no, this is not Barclays. This is Be Money Wise, you know. So the color is like that. And yes, it's been winning awards. I had to go to America one time because I was a finalist. It's won Corporate Entrepreneur Best UK Product nomination. It's just opened a lot of doors. It got me to speak to the Prime Minister as well at one point. And I've just been speaking at a global women festival in the last 2 weeks just because of this board game. And then, yes, I do have corporate people contacting me as well. So let's see what God does. God can do anything.
Wow, this is an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Yes, ma'am.
That abuse is not the end.
And no, not at all.
Because many women who go through abuse go to the poor me mode. I can't do this. I'm abused. I went through this. But your story is here to inspire a lot of women, a lot of ladies, that even if you've gone through abuse, arise, wake up, get out from there. Ask God to bring healing and restoration. Like we've learned from Dr. Arinola, that abuse is not the end. What is most important is to get out of that place and arise and, you know, go and fulfill the destiny God has given you. I really admire you, Dr. Arinola.
I admire you too, man.
Through what you've gone through, you are there to encourage women. You are there to tell women that I went through abuse, but look at what I am today, what God has done. So as we come to a conclusion of this, what is it you'd like to tell women out there to empower them? Give us an encouragement.
I'd like women to know that God loves you so deeply and He has a plan. You know, every time my kids come with a problem, I sit them down, I say, do you remember Psalm 139? I said, can you imagine God sitting down thinking, I'm going to create Arinola. I'm going to give her this nose. I'm going to give her this ear. I'm going to give her this personality. And she's going to do sort of such and such and such for me. I want everyone to know that before you were even thought of, before your parents came together, God created you in His mind. He was excited about what He created. And He loves you so deeply, and He had a plan for your life. So the abuse might just be a comma, not a colon in your story, but it's not the end. Let us go out and ask God to give us a picture of what He has in the book about us, and let us live that life and die empty like Paul did. It has nothing to do with abuse. At the end of the day, we're going to stand before God and give account for all the gifts that He's put in us. So please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arinola.
Thank you, Jane.
Learned a lot from you, and you are one of our powerful women in our Power Women Chronicles.
Powerful.
Stories of women.
All
You
the
know,
glory.
one of the things that I know, our stories are life experiences. And
Mm.
as they say, you know, life experiences are the best teacher, you know. So it's very important for us to share our stories, our testimony, to empower other women. So I will say, anybody out there listening to this powerful story, if you are going through a situation, no, it's not the end. There is
Amen.
hope. There is hope. If you have gone through an abusive relationship, or you're still going through an abusive relationship, don't give up. Trust God, the same God who rescued Dr. Arinola and empowered her and helped her to write books and become, you know, another and a doctor, is the same God that is able to help you come through it. If you need any help, we are there. Contact us, contact Dr. Arinola. We have all her details there. If you want to buy her books, if you want to buy her games. And I will say thank you so much for coming.